Hello and welcome, everybody. Well, I hope there's people here to welcome. Today's stream is going to be a little bit different from normal. There's not really going to be much, if any, gameplay. This is primarily going to be me showing off designs and talking about characters, and my own personal opinions about them throughout the franchise so far, or well, the last 3 games anyway, since I kind of haven't actually played much beyond those, but that's not important right now. Okay. Well, probably got about as many viewers as I'm gonna get, so let's start. We might as well start this off with the poster boys of the franchise, Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Scorpion, for his design, I just like his Mortal Kombat 11 design. It's cool, I love the hood, and honestly none of the rest of them felt quite like they worked. For Scorpion, I really like his development through the franchise, from revenge-obsessed Spectre to the new Grandmaster of the Shirai Ryu. It's probably the closest poor Hanzo's ever going to get in the franchise to a happy ending. The gods do not like him, or the Titans don't, apparently. Nothing particularly fancy for this one. Harumi's protector to remind him of his family. Muramasa because I kind of like the stingers, and oh, hi Zenny. Because frankly, the legends around Muramasa blades seem to fit him perfectly. Not quite perfectly, whatever. And the classic spear because retain a bit of his home, of his original clan. For his past self, I decided to invert the colors because the black and yellow just look awesome. For him, his gear is primarily geared around, well, the anger and rage that kind of came to define the character. Honestly, I don't have too much to say about why I gave him these looks aside from them looking cool. I probably going to end up playing him in Mortal Kombat 1 just because I'm a big fan of Kuai Liang, and I guess Kuai Liang is the new Scorpion. Basically, good character, good growth, good development, but I still really wish that Noob Saibot was the one to kill him. It just feels like you would make everything complete. The last part is just this, because I'm sure most of you know about this outfit, but this was Scorpion's look from Mortal Kombat 9, or Mortal Kombat 2011, whatever. And it's just awesome. I love everything about it. The scale, the skull. It looks overly hardcore while still looking fun. Well, not... I guess fun wouldn't be the right word so much as appropriately over the top for the series. The way the hood works looks a lot better to me than just the cloth or leather hoods that Scorpion and Sub-Zero generally have. And I really want to see this skin come back in the next game because it's awesome. Next up, we have his mortal enemy slash best frenemy, Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero didn't really have too... No, wait. I like Sub-Zero's basic look too, much like with Scorpion, though I think I prefer it without the hood, hence the change right there. Though it is interesting that while Scorpion's hood is round, Subby's here looks square, and I'm never going to call him that again. I don't know, maybe that's a Japanese versus Chinese thing. Him, I'm mostly decked out in gear designed around, well, who he's become at this point, which is a trend for most of the characters. His own arsenal, an ice axe based on the Redeemer, because that was his whole part of his goal for the past 2 games. No, actually, mostly just part of 10, and he was successful by 11 to redeem the Lin Kuei after Sector basically ruined everything. His arc throughout the past 2 games has kind of been much like Scorpion. He's one of the poster boys, but the general story rarely seems to revolve around him. The arc has mostly been about coming to grips with Lin Kuei's corruption and trying to make it better, which I would say he has, considering his willingness to accept his mistakes and the mistakes of his clan and work together with Hanzo. He didn't really have a past version to show up, which is kind of weird when you think about it, but I made that anyway. Mostly to contrast his present self. Brother's Keeper, Tundra's Blade, and Bihan's Frozen Arsenal. Back where he started at Mortal Kombat 9, while he did end up being a heroic character, and honestly he seemed to gain most of his heroism after he became cyberized. He started it off very much focused on his brother. He wasn't quite Sub-Zero yet, he was still Tundra, learning and obsessing on his brother and gaining revenge for him. A mindset that he thankfully grew out of very quickly, but this one was just made for fun. Alright, we started with our poster boys. Now we're going into into our actual heroes, and then we'll move to neutral and villains and guest characters at the very end. So let's start things off with with the big good of the franchise, Raiden. Raiden, I wish that we had seen more of him and Liu Kang. The most we saw of that, I feel like, was in Mortal Kombat 9. But I'd have loved to see them go into the student-mentor relationship better. Here, I just have him mostly decked out in his look from the main story of the game because I think it looks great on him. The blue and the white, a relatively less violent staff for when he actually does the fighting, because this is the less sadistic version of Raiden. And honestly, that's just because they made me put on Medallion. And it's got the famous dragon in it. I know, I have such depths and details about these characters. Don't worry, I'll get better at that. And of course, his very poorly used counterpart, Dark Raiden. Dark Raiden I honestly found unpleasant. Pretty much from the start of the second game at least, torturing an enemy for literally no reason while also seeming to be annoyed that the enemy was in pain by the torture. It all just felt very edge for the sake of edge. Character-wise, I feel like he redeemed himself with the assault on the Netherrealm, where we got to see more of the pragmatic, striking first mentality, especially when Cassie confronted him about her mom's death, and he basically shrugged it off. That, well, she died a warrior's death, that's all anyone can ask for, and basically everybody in the audience wanted to kick his ass for that. I still feel like that pragmatic, angry side would have been interesting to explore, and compare and contrast against the good Raiden, who, as we saw, struggled against the dark side a few times. So it would have been nice to have a actual incarnation of what he could become to face against him. For this, mostly I went with the red and black and evil all over look. A more vicious staff. The Life Stealer, I was thinking about using Shinnok's amulet, but honestly, Life Stealer just really looks good on that armor, don't you think? And from Raiden we go to what was supposed to be the main character of the whole series, Liu Kang. Liu Kang has 3 variants in this game, so I'll be discussing each one when we get to it. Liu Kang honestly started off in Mortal Kombat 9. Generic, kind of boring. A part of that I blame on the technology. He became a lot more likable in this game because his expressions were much more, well, expressive. I know, guys. But he showed more personality in his expressions. His voice sounded quieter, more gentle, more like a monk than... I think they were trying to sound more like Ryu in the first game. He came across more actively humble and even had a bit of a sense of humor when talking with Kung Lao. In 9, I found him a bit dull, generic, and okay, he was loyal to Raiden, but then he wasn't, because, let's be honest, Raiden made some really stupid choices, but I don't know, it felt a bit vague for my tastes. Here, he was actually active without talking too much of the story, and I actually believe he was a heroic chosen one type. A special note to his scenes where he actually turned on Raiden for torturing Scorpion, as opposed to in the original where he turned on Raiden essentially because Raiden wouldn't let him have all the glory of beating Shao Kahn. That's what it felt like, anyway. So for him, I just went with the basics: the Chosen One bandana, relics of the First Dynasty. And okay, that one I mostly just went with because I thought the chains looked cool on him. A lot of these you're going to find are mostly just because it was cooler that way. Then there's his evil counterpart, the Revenant, the King of Hell, and so on and so forth. I liked and disliked that. I feel like he turned to mustache twirling evil a bit too easily, but that's kind of common with most of the Revenants. I'm not sure how much of that is because of their own choice or because of Quan Chi when he created them. Either way, I decided to go with the opposite look to Liu Kang. The big, scary armor, the spiky fists, or bracers. Ow. Boastful bandana. It feels like it would be the name of one of the gear options. And light up katanas because why not? He was in the game, he was the one most obsessed with revenge against Raiden, and it's a bit of a shame they only encountered each other at their final battle, but I think he also helped show some of Raiden's best side, or the best side of Raiden, because when he was fighting him, Raiden didn't destroy him, just fused him and his other self in the Fire God. Forgiveness is not something that I feel like we see often in this franchise, and I feel like that's what Raiden's last moments were. Besides the reincarnation thing, but and of course, probably the most powerful character in the franchise these days, Fire God Liu Kang. Honestly, there's not much to say about the particular gear that I gave him, but I do like that it seems he gained some of his Revenant's more vicious pragmatism, something I suspect we'll see more of in Mortal Kombat 1. notably in Aftermath, where he out-gambited Shang Tsung simply by letting other people suffer and die, which is something that he originally never would do. Even Shang Tsung seemed impressed by that one. We'll have to see if that hard-hearted pragmatism continues in the future, but I kind of hope not. I'd like for a god character who's just good. Who is opposite in Outworld, Hana. Kitana is a character that I'm afraid I just don't have that many opinions on. Good character depth, or character arc, and seeing her get out from under Shao Kahn's thumb and unite Outworld, but I don't know, something just didn't resonate with me. Gear-wise, I left her without a mask just to oppose Shao Kahn hiding behind a mask and kind of symbolic of the current era of Outworld, of openness, of honesty. I do like that she was actually the diplomat and everything in the end, but like I said, just something about her didn't really resonate with me. The one thing I tried to keep for character-wise is the Sai being Mileena's. In Mortal Kombat 9, Mileena's ending has it that Kitana forgave her for everything she did. And that was all Mileena needed, it seemed, to be good. Somebody who actually cared and accepted her. I wish that Kitana in the actual story had been more like that. It would have been interesting seeing Kitana and Shao Kahn essentially at odds for control of Mileena's destiny, and Mileena having to decide who she ultimately would be loyal to. I gave her Mileena's side just because I like to believe that somewhere she wishes things were different with her sister. Not much to say about her Revenant. I just went with the more spiky, evil look. Her Revenant really didn't have much screen time at all to show much personality aside from being, well, Liu Kang with boobs, for lack of a better term. Most of the Revenants were wasted, in my opinion, but alright, Kung Lao. Okay, you're going to hear wasted potential a lot from me during all of this. Kung Lao is forever in Liu Kang's shadow, and now in Raiden's shadow in MK1. He's proud, boastful, and for the most part seems to back up his power. At one point he commented that Shao Kahn had to kill him with a sneak attack because Shao didn't think that he'd be able to win a one-on-one confrontation, and considering Shao Kahn's reaction to that, I feel like he might have had a point. Kung Lao was definitely skilled, loved his razor hats, and while proud and arrogant, he was never really there's never any real reason to doubt that he was on the side of the good guys. Unlike Liu Kang, I felt that he was a better character back during Mortal Kombat 9. But yeah, I basically went for a semi-simple monk outfit with some ornamentation because he was that kind of proud character. I wish I had the seal of the great Kung Lao. I like that the amount of respect he had for his ancestor. Revenant Kung Lao is basically Kung Lao's ego turned up to 11. We've got the hat being a serrated blade for the extra pain. The Lord Bracers serves as part of his newfound role of a Lord of the Netherrealm. And Church of Almighty Lao, a church dedicated to him. It felt in character for evil Kung Lao, and that's also where his jealousy against Liu Kang was more pronounced, and well, like I said, there's a lot of things I'd like to have seen more of. Though I am happy to say that as a intro quote between him and Liu Kang revealed, he is not, in fact, homophobic, as it was suggested when he was insulting Kung Jin in MK10. And, presumably, neither is Liu Kang. It's a small thing, but I do feel like getting that cleared up makes him more likable. And now for Kitana's sidekick, Jade. Unlike Kitana, I was more invested in Jade. She always came across as loyal to Kitana, not loyal to the throne, which Kitana had a bit of a case of in MK9. Most of her gear is representative of that. Last Defender of the Khan, well, Katana Khan anyway, a Razorang gifted from Kitana, and the Rod of Edenian Might. I feel like one of the things that separates her from Kitana is that Jade seemed to have more nostalgia for Edenia as it was before. Shao Kahn invaded, took over, and it became just another part of Outworld. So I think her pride as an Edenian is one of the more interesting traits. Sadly, she's forever stuck in somebody's shadow. Usually it's Kitana's shadow, it just seemed to be her counterpart, sidekick, whatever. Or in 11, most of her character was built around Kotal, despite us not knowing the two had ever met. And with a couple exceptions in the story mode, she basically was just Kotal's devoted girlfriend. Though seeing her stand up to him to protect the Tarkatans was a good scene. Revenant. Revenant 1, I'd mostly just try to play up more of the assassin side. Less clothing for easier movement, a more painful spear, kind of. But like with the other non-Liu Kang Revenants, not much to say about her. Alright. I guess I should also talk about Kotal. Her devoted love interest. Kotal is boring. Kotal was more interesting in MK10, where he presented a lawful neutral counterpart to Shao Kahn's, well, chaotic evil throughout the entire series. And the Outworld we saw in 10 felt a lot less dystopian, more a couple hundred years behind modern. Here, he just really wasn't very interesting though, so yeah. And the Earthrealm heroes. Wait, did I miss any Outworld heroes? Yeah, Shiva. Yeah. Shiva was strong, loyal, and did not get enough screen time. I too appreciate having a female character who's basically Amazonian, and the forearms thing definitely makes the design more interesting. But her loyalty to her people was admirable, but she also seemed to be a bit far from as obsessed as Jade or something, stuck on Goro and what had happened to him thanks to Kotal. I wish we had seen more of what she was like as just a ruler. But I do appreciate her until and after death loyalty to Sindel, even if it turned out to be misguided. We'll get into Sindel later. That was most of our Outworld heroes. Nightwolf was one of my favorites back in MK9. He just appeared basically out of nowhere, sure. But younger me just thought, hey, cool, shaman. Why not throw that into the toy box? And despite my abysmal display with him during Aftermath, he was actually one of my best characters. I like that he's quiet, calmer than most of the other Earthrealm champions. And, okay, it might be leaning into the magical Native American story, but I like a warrior who's calm. But at the same time, this might just be because the AI seems to make him do fatalities more. He also seems very unforgiving, very brutal when there's an actual enemy, which showed more with how he was the most openly disdainful of working with Shang Tsung. Again, not a whole lot to say, but I wish I had more because this character was a lot of promise. Okay, so his Revenant had even less personality. All I really had to work with for that was making him, as much as Nightwolf is probably a noble Native American stereotype, him I decided to go with a savage look. His weapons are more crude in their design, simplistic and pain-causing. He's got the scary-looking face paint and dark clothes. There's too many characters here who didn't have much potential, or who had too much potential and just wasn't realized. And now for the spotlight stealing squad of the reboot trilogy, the Earthrealmers. Let's start with our original ones. Johnny Cage. Johnny Cage has gone through a lot of growth during the series, more than most of the other characters. In the first game, he was an insufferable asshole, but his refusal to kill... Okay, I honestly forget if it was Baraka or Reptile. I think Baraka. His refusal to kill Baraka after Shang Tsung said to kill him was admittedly partly due to being in over his head and having no idea what was going on, really. But also helped show that he was an arrogant jackass, but had good heart. That was better shown when he fought Kano to help out Sonya, who he was very grossly hitting on earlier. Throughout the series, we see him get humbled and slowly grow as a person. And I think it says something that his daughter seems to prefer him over Sonya until they reconcile. That he grew up to the point that he could become a good father. So for his design, I basically tried to make him look more pragmatic, a little less flashy, well, as much as I could get with that. And, well, closer to his post-development self. In contrast, younger him is an intolerable jackass. Yes, I called you that, don't look so surprised. For him, I basically just redesigned him as flashy show-off type. Though his younger self did, much like the original, redeem himself somewhat with Sonya, willing to let her kill him so that she could escape, helping to fight alongside her as best he could. And as we ultimately saw, he started to really care by the time of Aftermath, and had the rage breaking point that unfortunately was not enough to beat Sindel and Shao Kahn, but was a very good final stand, I think. Sonya... Oh, I'm going to piss off so many Mortal Kombat fans with this. Sonya bores me. Look, I get it, for some people she's probably a lot more interesting, but to me, she's dime a dozen, G.I. Jane, take no shit, but secretly has a soft side for the male love interest thing, and it just... I couldn't really tell much of a difference between past her and future her, so I didn't really even bother to make two outfits for her. She was a soldier through and through, for better or for worse. Contrast that to Jax. Jax was much more interesting. He, especially in this game, he was dealing with PTSD. His friends were trying to be there for him, but it just wasn't enough. And who can blame him? I mean, first he had his arms ripped off, and very lucky that there were mechanical arms in that timeline. Then he does everything he can to fight for the safety of the whole planet, and ends up being killed. And in death, he has to become a revenant, forced to serve and obey one of the most evil characters in the series, and commit God knows how many atrocities. Then he finally gets back on his feet with Vera, a rare case of therapists actually existing in this kind of setting. Vera, I don't think we get to know much about her, but I can personally understand what it's like having a living emotional crutch. And then he has Jackie. Things start to be getting better for him. Then he loses his support, and everything else just crumbles around him. Like I said, he was one of the very few of Kronika's minions that I actually felt pity for. I have him here at what could be his lowest or highest point, as Kronika's servant, empowered by her as best as he can be. His gear is meant to reflect, well, his state. He's Kronika's minion, and for the arms, which look almost realistic, like his old ones. Got the combat medallion from being in the tournament, and his thumper, whatever, is named after his time as a Revenant. I feel like all three of those, well, these two anyway, I have part of his design as things that he simply cannot get past, the things that make him who he is now, and that he just can't escape. We do ultimately see that he turns on Kronika, but he's also responsible for one of the best scenes in Aftermath, so that one's also cool. In contrast, his younger self. His younger self was generally more optimistic, more, well, closer to Sonya, more typical soldier. I have slightly better opinions on him than some of the other past characters. He bonded pretty quickly with his inevitable daughter, and he seemed closer to fighting the good fight because it was the right thing to do, as opposed to Jax, who eventually seemed to, older Jax, who seemed to eventually just did it because he didn't know anything else to do, at least until he broke down. So that's why he's got the classic arms, a buckle of best dad ever, because he actually was a pretty good dad, notably when he refused to let Jackie fight her dad because she shouldn't have to carry that kind of burden. He also sympathized well with his future self and openly admitted that he suffered horribly and still was suffering. He could see it. They just differed on that's no excuse to turn against your family. Which, to be fair, older Jax wasn't trying to do, but... And he's got the more traditional star-spangled thumper. Why is it called a thumper? And then there's the combat kids. Cassie. I'm not looking very good with this. Cassie she was more interesting in MK10, where there was focus on her and the other combat kids, and she had more foils to bounce off of, including her mother and father. Here, she didn't really have that, and a lot of her personality felt more like Sonya, but make her millennial, and she combined I feel like her personality here combined the worst aspects of her dad and the best aspects of her mom, if that makes any sense. Nothing to particularly complain about, but nothing that interesting to me. I probably should have rewatched the Mortal Kombat 10 movie before starting this. Oh well. Jackie, again, the fact that she had a foil, I think, was one of the biggest advantages for her characterization. In her case, she had her dad and her dad. Yeah, it's weird when you think about it that way. She apparently got engaged to Takeda, which I wish they had gone into, but honestly, I wish Takeda and Kung Jin were here in general, but Takeda's coming back. See what happens. Okay, this outfit doesn't really represent her very well, but I just think it looks really good. Her relationship with her dad, both the idealistic version and older, broken version, I felt showcased a lot more personality and sympathy for her dad while seeing what her dad could have been, and the contrast had to be overwhelming for the poor girl. Also, I don't care what people say, I think that her Hellspawn look is awesome. I just wish that her mouth didn't open when she talked. I think that takes us... Oh, right, duh. And our last hero, I think anyway, is Fujin. Fujin was the second favorite character for me in Aftermath. I wish I had played him more at the start, because his gameplay was really fun. And I think he was responsible for one of the best scenes, where him and the older Jacks just talk. Where Fujin talks about how he understands the pain that Jax has to be feeling. That, okay, sure, he's a god, but he stepped down from the ivory tower. He fights because he wants to protect people and he cares for people. And about how every time you lose, not just because of your pride, but because you've lost somebody that you could have saved. And I'm probably saying it wrong, but Fujin was the more compassionate contrast to Raiden's more firm, logical, soft touch versus heavy hand kind of thing. I wish Fujin had been around more, and I hope that he's around in MK1 too. Also notable in that when he gets the hourglass in his arcade ending, he lives thousands of lives as a human and becomes a god full of compassion and helps bring the realms together, not by taking out the villains, but by changing the villains. And yeah, I'd just like to see more of them. That about does it for the heroes, though. Let's move to more neutral characters. Starting with our wild card, Erron Black. Erron was one of the more interesting characters introduced into the new trilogy. Again, going with the toy box approach, just a completely out of place old western cowboy. And that's kind of what made him work. In In 10, the older him acted like a more of a hard-nosed sheriff type. In 11, he seemed more like a wild card doing what he wanted for the fun of it. And yeah, we never figure out what happened to his older self. Though presumably his older self was still there because we saw him at the final battle, but as a character, he's kind of a tool, but in that sense that, how do I say that? He's a jerk, he doesn't care that he's a jerk, and is just out for himself, but he owns it. Honestly, he owns the role. He didn't feel particularly deep as a character, but interesting in the amount of potential he had. For him, I mostly just changed up some of the color looks for his base, and gave him weapons that fit his time period better. And not much else to say there. Let's see. Cabal. Okay. This guy is going to be a bit... In Mortal Kombat 9, he was a police officer working alongside Stryker. He fought Motaro, explosions happened, and he ended up heavily scarred. Kano helped rebuild him, and then he got his own theme song as the $6 Million Man. No, but if I didn't know at the time that him and Kano were really old friends or that he used to be evil, so I just saw him as a straight up good guy, albeit maybe one with a shady past, but genuinely trying to be a hero, or at least do the right thing. The little we saw of his past self might have been like that, but screwed with him to make him think that he was brutally tortured Sonya, and thus I guess steering him off of whatever path he might have gone on to. So for him, I made this one to kind of try and look more like his MK9 self, and a more vicious, hateful, Revenant-looking one, because damn it, I like the original Cabal, and seeing him just, well, the reboot Cabal, and seeing him just turn straight villain with nothing interesting about him, boring. So I guess we've got enough Revenants versus their original selves here. Baraka I'm also keeping in the neutral category. Look, I get he's basically been the chew toy for Mortal Kombat for years, the one who exists to get beat up to show how powerful the heroes are. This game started to redeem him by making him look like an actual leader for his tribe, which was fantastic. And if nothing else, we saw through the rest of the franchise, he is loyal to a fault. usually to the fault. I should like him more than I do, but look, he's loyal to his tribe, and there are innocent people in his tribe. I get that. It's great, but his tribe were also murderous cannibals who apparently hunted down innocent people and killed them for food. It's just hard to sympathize. On the plus side, I very much like his Mortal Kombat 1 self, where he seems to be a regular guy dealt a bad hand with the Tarkat disease, but who actually stepped up and became a leader, and became someone who could unite the people who were suffering from the disease instead of just giving in to the urges of violence. Time will tell if he's as cool as I hope he is, but for the reboot version of him, he was meh, but okay. Any other neutrals that I should be talking about here? Not really. So let's go with our primary villain of the reboot saga, and actually, no. Whatever. One of the more prominent big bads in the series, Shao Kahn. Shao Kahn, you suck. He is boring. There's little about him except for being a brute and a thug. He beats his way to get whatever he wants, and then usually beats up what he wants because he needs to feel strong about it. He was a thug, a bully, and honestly, just unimpressive. The only thing notable about him is his incredible amount of power. Like M. Bison without the charm. So for his design, I decided to try to make him look as intimidating as possible, sealing up all visible flesh and blocking off any humanity you might be able to see from him. With his spear, in particular, just being thuggishly gruesome as the rest of him. In contrast, the other biggest villain of the franchise, that's not Shinnok, Shang Tsung. Like with Liu Kang, we have 3 different versions of him. Though 2 of them are only really differentiated by power. Shang Tsung was a character that I always liked more in theory than in practice. An evil foil for our hero Liu Kang, the first main villain of the franchise, fittingly the last main villain of the timeline, and theoretically as a clever, conniving backstabber. He's often represented by the snake, in contrast to Liu Kang's dragon. But in the only appearance I saw of him in Mortal Kombat 9, he wasn't really impressive. He was smarter than Shao Kahn, but honestly just about everybody in Shao Kahn's court was smarter than Shao Kahn. He's vile. But that started to change. I guess it really doesn't matter which version I'm looking at for this, huh? Aftermath made him instantly my favorite character of the DLC. Also, the combat quotes he had. But most especially his voice actor. His voice actor who put in an affability and charm to his voice that never felt real. He felt more like a snake. Cunning, tricky, slithering through his plans. That last metaphor didn't work at all. But he felt more like a true... All the intelligence that was built up actually paid off. He played all of every single character except, ironically, Liu Kang. A quote comes to mind that you'll fit him perfectly. You played me like a fiddle. Actually, a fiddle is very difficult to play. I played you like the cheap kazoo you are. And I loved how egotistical, snide, and smug he was the whole time. You knew he was planning something from the start, but you didn't quite know what. And the moment he chooses to betray everybody is when everything starts to fall apart. Well, actually Sindel is when everything started to fall apart, but at the final battle, once he started his plan, it was clear that nothing was going to stop him, and he had played every single piece right where he wanted to. Then there was the final moment. His talk with Liu Kang, I felt, was actually really good, because actually his talks with Liu Kang were, in the Aftermath DLC, all were the most interesting tidbits into his real character. In particular, at the very beginning, his apparent anger and disgust towards Kronika for creating him so that she could use him. His destiny was never his own to choose. I think more than anything, that's what angered him, that he was the pawn for somebody else for a change. And to an extent, his desire for unlimited power could be seen as the only way he could be certain that he controlled his own destiny. In the end, he also showed Liu Kang something that Shao Kahn had never shown anybody, really. respect. Granted, it was respect because Liu Kang had been remarkably cold-blooded and let his friends and allies die horribly, but it was still, I believe, it was still genuine respect. He also showed being touched by his disciples' devotion to him after seeing that they killed themselves after he was gone. Granted, it was more because of his own ego, but it still felt more interesting. And as I said, I hope Shang Tsung becomes the next main villain of the franchise. That, like Shao Kahn, exists for a while, because if Liu Kang and Shang Tsung become the big good and big bad respectively, Liu Kang has shown himself to be, has kind of redeemed his own character and shown that he can actually be smarter than he looks. Shang Tsung is an intelligent schemer, more fitting for a narrative game than the simple tournament style that had bland villains like Shao Kahn. I want to see the two of them basically do a cosmic chess game with the heroes and villains, because I like the connection between them. Feels much more. It feels more of an arch nemesis vibe there than Raiden and Shao Kahn, who were simply the most powerful of their respective sides. Also, I kind of like his final look when you see him in his ending for Aftermath, which yes I did, which is part of how I got this look, and I think it looks cooler than when he's wearing the crown. But let's also talk about our villains introduced for this. Gyros, I would almost count more as a neutral character than a straight villain, because he seemed more of a mechanical automaton. Yeah, that was the right word. He was more of an automaton than his own character, but I appreciated his calm. He was there to get the mission done. That was it. He took no joy in what he did. He had no regret for it. It simply was what had to be done. But there was still enough there to suggest some level of personality. For example, he, like Shang, showed actual respect for his enemies when Kung Lao killed him briefly and quickly. It didn't stop him from beating the crap out of them, but he did speak to them with respect. I hope that now we know he's coming to MK1. I hope that now that he's more than just the boss's little minion to micromanage for them, I hope we see more personality. My thought from his trailer for Mortal Kombat 1 is that he'll be more openly questioning Liu Kang and Liu Kang getting a bit too into his role as Earthrealm's new protector. And I hope they do him justice because he is a cool character and a cool design. And I hope they don't waste it. Now to a villain I have absolutely no respect for. Kano. As I kind of mentioned in the stream, Kano is just... While technically his evil is on a smaller scale than, say, Shao Kahn or Shang Tsung, definitely Kronika, it also feels more real. He's not a world conqueror or leader of armies. He is a crude, basic, violent thug. A garden variety sociopath who kills and tortures because he finds it fun. He's not out to rule the world because that would stop him from being the bully in the playground. Honestly, that made him a great villain because it gave us an enemy that was down to earth and not over the top. But at the same time, it also made him so much more hateable. Though his voice actor and the writers in general did make a good portion of his evil funny because of just how much it crosses the line. The vile bastard, he does not care, and he just as soon got you as have eat with you. I don't know. That last one kind of got away from me. For that purpose, I basically did nothing different with his past self, aside from some base things like using Mima's knife, like he was just starting out, or using somewhat more simplistic looking gear, because he was from an older period. They were basically the same character. The only difference was older Kano knew more. Scarlet, who I can't say that she was a good person. We clearly saw she was not. But as opposed to, say, Kano, she actually has a sympathetic motivation. She was an orphan in Outworld, which at the time was very blatantly a dystopia. And she was starving, and then the most powerful man in Outworld takes her in, teaches her magic, and makes her one of the most... makes her a lieutenant. Presumably she had to earn her way there, but still. She was one of the few loyal to Shao Kahn out of true, actual loyalty. And personally, just in terms of fighting, she's been my main since I got 11. Which is the main reason I hope she comes back. And as it's implied through various match quotes, she was most likely corrupted by the blood magic, probably also Shao Kahn's goal, but she also, I guess you would also say that she was one of the very, 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 very few pet dog moments that Shao Kahn had. Fucking an orphaned waif and actually treated her well. I'd say I wish they used her more. I do. And I hope that they do use her more, and her resentment toward Edenians in particular, because they were the embodiment, essentially, of living in ivory towers while she lived in squalor. At least from her perspective, having no idea what Katana and Jade actually went through. I'd love to see more interaction between Scarlet and Katana. Though, frankly, the fact that she became a part of the story at all is impressive, considering she was literally just a blood user in a red bikini in Mortal Kombat 9. So this is a massive upgrade for her already. Talking villains, let's go to Frost. Arguably one of the big villains of this particular game. She was unimpressive. I mean, she brought the Cyber Lin Kuei initiative back and made it horrifying to witness. She even cyberized herself. And her relationship with Kuai Liang felt like it had potential to it. With resentful students against her former master. The problem quickly became, though, that she wasn't used enough in story mode. When she was, too much of her character was based on her ego, not the intelligence it would have taken to start the Cyber Lin Kuei initiative again and keep it going behind Sub-Zero's back for a while, or her hatred of the Shirai Ryu. I'm sure there's a better explanation for the Shirai Ryu versus Lin Kuei fight, but I don't really know what it is. But too much of it was, like I said, was just focused on her ego. How she desperately needed praise. How she had to be at the center and the front of everything. The worst moment of that is when she led the Cyber Lin Kuei on the ships to meet the Forces of Good's ships. Because she was... Okay, even if we give her credit that she had to be close enough in order to command the Cyber Lin Kuei, she still should have stayed back, stayed in like a cargo hold or something. Make it so that the enemies can't get to her, because once she was taken out, all of the Cyber Lin Kuei just stopped. But she needed to prove that she could win, so she went to the front of the battle and died embarrassingly. I guess you could say that it was also a final battle with her hated master Sub-Zero, but it was still a really stupid thing to do. Design-wise, I think she's pretty cool. The fact that she's cybernetic allows the character to move and attack in ways that just look wrong. And it's brilliant. Who else we got to go over here? Villains. Noob Saibot. Once again, wasted potential. Noob Saibot is Bihan, the original Sub-Zero. The one killed unjustly by Scorpion. I hope we see a bit more of Bihan's more sympathetic traits now that he's Sub-Zero again. Though I still kind of expect that he'll be the bad guy, but hey. Like I said before, he should have been the one to kill off Scorpion in the end, because it showed the cycle of revenge. And it gave him a much needed win because, let's be honest, he was not impressive at all during story mode. He appeared twice, both times got beaten up and accomplished nothing. Killing off Scorpion would have been massive to the entire franchise, and no matter what losses he him killing his killer would have brought in a lot of closure in the franchise. But also for some reason he sounds like Dr. Claw in here. I'll get you next time, Hanzo. Next time. Unfortunately, Scorpion was killed by one of the worst characters in the franchise. D'Vorah. Oh, D'Vorah. Along with Sindel, she's one of the two characters that I hate. Though admittedly part of it is a personal thing. D'Vorah has an interesting bug gimmick, but personality-wise, all she does is for the hive. This one will protect the hive. And somehow protecting the hive means going out into the world and backstabbing everybody. Like, you see a beehive, you know that if you smack it, the bees are going to attack you. You don't expect them to be 5 miles away and just randomly stinging people because of it. She killed 2 beloved fan favorites in incredibly anticlimactic ways. Melina and the aforementioned Scorpion. And she just always gets away with it. Maybe if there was some kind of comeuppance against her, that would be something, but she just seems to be there to show a bug character who just kills everybody. Well, who just backstabs people for the good of the hive. And that's also the personal reason I hate her. I actually love bugs. Bees or hornets, ants, termites, beetles. I like them. I don't want to kill them. I mean, obviously you don't want ants or termites in your house. I get it. And bees and wasps can be dangerous, and. But I like bugs. I find them fascinating. I try to just watch them and learn about them, let them go about their business. I kind of find it fascinating watching ants work like they do. I see why people used to think that they were all hive mind, because they move in such perfect patterns sometimes that it's just hard to imagine. Devora, however, takes every slimy, gross, vile stereotype about bugs and puts them all into one being. Like the roach from Men in Black, only much, much more hateable. But okay, enough complaining about her. Now for a female character I actually do like, because I feel like I've been very hard on the female characters in this game. Cetrion. Cetrion is the other minion of Kronika that I actually have sympathy for. As we saw whenever Cetrion was with Kronika, Kronika is very emotionally abusive towards her. She manipulates her, she pushes just the right button that Cetrion has to do things her way. And Cetrion is a goddess of virtue and light, opposite of her brother Shinnok. So I don't actually believe that, seeing what I have of her, I don't believe that the virtue and light things were faked or hiding the secretly evil side. She seemed to be a genuinely good deity who was forced into a role because Mommy Dearest said so, and you can't defy your mother. And then we saw her mom just kill her off for a quick power boost. Cetrion was tragic. She still did what her mother commanded, and still went along willingly, though I think Liu Kang was getting to her in the end. So she's still a villain, but I at least hope there's a new Cetrion in the timeline who can actually be the villain, or the goddess of light and virtue like she wanted to be. And I guess that takes us to Sindel. A lot of... I know at least enough about the fandom to know most of us hated Sindel being turned evil. Dominatrix Barbie, as I put it. It makes no sense. Okay, so she was actually killed by somebody else and didn't kill herself to protect Earthrealm. Okay, so then why did her sacrifice end up protecting Earthrealm? She was always with Shao Kahn. Okay, so why did Shao Kahn have her resurrected and just use her purely as a tool instead of acting as creepily lovey-dovey. Words I never thought I would apply to Shao Kahn, but still. As he does in Mortal Kombat 11. It seems to me that they made her evil just because she was disliked for how easily she killed off so many characters so anticlimactically in MK9, which, yeah, honestly, that pissed everybody off. But it just raises too many questions. It would have been so much better if it had been written that Shang Tsung planted evil in her when he resurrected her the second time, thus turning her into the monster that we saw, but I'm so glad that Sindel is a hero in the new game. I suspect she might actually go villain in the new game, but that, I think, is more a case of from the pressures of Outworld, from General Shao and his attacks on her. I feel like she might become a well-intentioned extremist like Dark Raiden, but we'll see what happens. In the story, I hated her. Shao Kahn is at least admits that he's nothing but a thuggish tyrant and brute. Sindel played the part of a good person for a while, and I was really hoping that was the true her, and then she just decides, or then flips a switch, and suddenly she never cared about her daughter Kitana, and perfectly fine massacring people, and I don't know, stabbed Jared and had sex on his corpse from the look of it in her ending. It was just too much. It was too over the top, and it might have been amusingly over the top, except she goes evil, manipulates everybody, and is creepily romantic with Shao Kahn. And everything, all their plans are pulled off flawlessly, because I really don't know. It's why watching them both die at Shang Tsung's hand was so very cathartic. I would have liked a middle ground, where she was evil, loved Shao Kahn, but also had lines. Like, Kitana is her daughter. Even if she became a control freak about Kitana can't marry some lowborn like Liu Kang, that would be something. But here, she's just evil because she's evil. Like I said, I think Shang Tsung had a reason why he went evil, and it's very likely Kronika manipulated things so he would be evil from the start. And Shao Kahn was a monster, but I mean, Outworld's a horrifying place, so he was basic, but he didn't need to be more. She needed to be more, and they decided to just make her less than even her original self was. Like I said, Dominatrix Barbie. And I hate this character Actually, more than Devora. They're both backstabbing leeches, but Devora at least might be protecting the chitin. Sindel is evil for literally no reason. And then we have our last two evil characters. Rain! I know barely anything about him. He pretended to be loyal to Melina. He feels like he's the son of a god or a demigod, therefore he feels he deserves the throne. Okay, but I just don't know enough about him to say whether he's boring or well written. I like the way he fights, but yeah. I gave him this look just because it was the closest to a demigod kind of look I could find. And there's fan favorite Melina. Again, wasted potential. Also not. In Mortal Kombat 10, she was a lot more interesting. The leader of her own faction competing for power over Outworld. I liked the civil war between her and Kotal. Her feeling as though she deserves the throne because of her relationship with Shao Kahn, which points in Shao Kahn's favor. One of the few humanizing moments that Shao Kahn had was his rage that Devora had killed Melina. Now, was it rage that Devora had killed a daughter, or rage that Devora had robbed him of a weapon? That's the question, but Melina wants to be loved. Desperately. As we saw in Kitana's, or in her ending in MK9, she could be a good person if the people who were good didn't constantly toss her aside for her looks. Granted, by the time MK10 hit, there were a lot better reasons to cast her aside, but you get my point. She's a character who could be good if somebody actually cared about her. But more than likely, Shao Kahn, her father, doesn't care about her. Though, I hate saying this, Sindel apparently would consider her a daughter, considering her match quote with Devora said that Melina was as much a daughter to me as Kitana was. That... I feel gross saying anything good about this version of Sindel. But honestly, I think that all of this has taken a toll on Melina's sanity, which probably wasn't very good to begin with, considering she was half Tarkatan, half Adenian. I know for a fashion show I haven't talked much about the looks that I gave them, but for her, I avoided the regular base look for her, partly for looking too much like Kitana, but partly because I feel like this design with the hair and the uneven clothes fits her better. I feel like by now she'd be losing her mind, desperately desperately craving a reason to live. Not suicidal exactly, but without purpose, and without... this is going to sound cliche. And without love. Her ending here shows her getting married and having a baby because she wants people who unconditionally love her, and that's really depressing. So for this look, I tried to simply cover up her entire face, mostly because none of the regular masks look that good to me. Gave her weirdly decaying look, what looks like decaying flesh crawling up her arms. And honestly, I don't really have much good reason for the size in particular, but I wanted to portray instability. And I hope that she has a better life in Mortal Kombat 1. And I hope that her and Kitana stay actually close. Or at the very least that Kitana doesn't decide, oh no, your Tarkat disease has made you too gross, get away from me. I'll be honest, Kitana tossing Mileena aside for the admittedly horrifying teeth is one of the major reasons why I just never connected with her character. Because it was never a moral question in her mind, just Mileena's existence was an affront to her personally. And it just never felt substantial enough to justify at the beginning. And I wish that Kitana had talked or had shown more hesitation. A brutal casting her off because of the shock of everything, I get it. But she never hesitates or shows her sister sympathy ever again, except for that ending that I mentioned. I want to see our main heroine be better than that. Okay. Unless I miscounted. Now we talk about the guest characters. And truth be told, I have very little connection to most of them. Except for two, kind of. But let's start with our first guest character, the Terminator. I have never actually seen a Terminator movie. Yes, I am ashamed of this fact. However, the Terminator at least managed to keep it interesting in the game, because this isn't just one, this could be any number of them, as some of the match quotes imply that he's here to protect humanity, others imply that he's here to wipe out the world on behalf of Skynet. And ultimately, in his ending, it was purely a logical move, sure, but he made peace for humans and machines, and created a utopia for his world. And as Cassie said, in my books, that makes him a hero. Design-wise, I didn't have much, but I liked the one-arm left robotic or damaged to the point of showing the machine, as well as the gunshot in the head. It just makes him look more unique than looking purely Arnold. Okay. Rambo! I know less than about him. The poor guy is suffering PTSD. And it honestly made playing as him feel dirty. I felt bad for him, but I just don't know enough about him. I like this rain. RoboCop. I know slightly more than I do about Rambo. In particular, I know that he's one of the few good cops left in his version of Detroit. His quotes in the intros suggest that he's not just that, a good cop, that his soul is still there despite what people did to him. And look, with where we're at in the world right now, we need all the good cops we can get. I liked his basic design, but I feel like the blue sheen is a lot more interesting, or just looks better than the dull gray, and I gave him, while his visor is kind of iconic, I gave him a bit of battle scars just for a bit of personality. His guns are cool, but eh. Okay, and this leads us to the guest character, to the last two. Spawn and the Joker. Oh boy, am I gonna piss people off with the Joker. So you know what, let's start there. The Joker hardly needs introduction. Batman's archenemy, one of the most terrifying villains of all time. And okay, this is partly a comic rant, but the Joker should be more like an evil Deadpool. One day he decides to hold up a hot dog stand and then declare it a country from which he will launch world domination. The next, go on a mass murder spree. Copyright fish. Things like that. The Joker is a murderous monster. That's part of his character. But he also needs to be funny. And the Joker, as he's presented quite often, just is not funny. There's no... Let's take his ending, for example. In his ending, he, one by one, kills everybody on the planet. Then he takes the hourglass and starts slaughtering people through history. Okay. Where's the joke? Look, I get that he would create a horrifying reign, but just contrast Emperor Joker, where he turned the world into a chaotic, evil hellscape of horror and suffering, but still made everything darkly funny, to just a random act of slaughter. Do you guys understand what I mean? It's like his ending in Injustice 2 is essentially set up for him to... What? I can't remember much of it. I haven't played Injustice 2. I just remember what I saw. that he basically causes a horrifying disaster, leaves people in an absolute state of terror, and then sits back and eats popcorn to watch as the world destroys itself. That's the Joker. The Joker believes that life is one big joke, and the punchline is everyone's just as bad as he is, and then you die. And that's why he's so obsessed with breaking Batman, because Batman has had one bad day, but is still good, and he believes that everybody will turn out to be like him after they experience one bad day. Yes, he's a sadistic monster, but there's some level of philosophy to the character. And again, just forming a line and shooting people, or just killing everybody out of boredom is not funny. Not even in an evil way. It's just systematic and dull. And then he goes on to slaughter everybody around time, because they try to make it sound like his own little league of chaos, but it's just not. It's just random wanton slaughter with no joke. And he threatened my cat. My cat personally in his ending, so no, he deserves to be bludgeoned to death. For him, I decided to go with two different looks. This one is supposed to be a bit more whimsical. His hair looks more like his cartoon counterpart. His cane is more... It looks closer to Emperor Joker version. His Jack-in-the-Box. Yeah, see, I'll talk about that in a minute. Looks whimsically horrible. At the same time, though, as you just saw with his little gear changes, gameplay-wise, he's fantastic. He is an epitome of the blackest of humor. He's vile, vicious, cruel, but his fighting style is fun. It's silly. It's over the top. Like talking to a hand puppet of Batman with a gun in its mouth before he shoots somebody. Or taking a patient off of a wheelchair and using them as a bludgeon. It's vile, but it's silly, and it's fun. And I absolutely commend NetherRealm for that. But the ending just made him boring. I also did try to design the Mortal Kombat version that he had. I don't think I did very well. But then again, the Joker making something intentionally garish just seems appropriate. And lastly, there's Spawn. Spawn, I'll be honest, neither of the versions I made of him were all that different from the original, but the original is just fantastic on its own. Why mess with perfection? I know little about Spawn. My dad tried to get me into him when I was a kid, but it just didn't work. What I've seen of him in the game, though, I enjoy the character. not exactly a hero, but better than a villain. The fact that I can use him to slaughter the Joker helps, but maybe part of it is I'm just nostalgic for the 90s design. Maybe part of it is that he has Keith David's voice, which is so good. But you see this guy, and while he doesn't seem very fond of the heroes, he makes... Oh, wow. I just realized that I forgot somebody. I'll get to him in a minute. I'm not entirely sure how to explain my thoughts. Spawn, a hero using chains and hellfire to punish evil, is also part of why I love Ghost Rider so much. Shame Ghost Rider can't get in this game. The use of both hellfire and modern-day weapons is an interesting approach. The way the chains are used is fun. I don't have much to say, particulars, but I do enjoy him. And I really would have liked to see him make it over into MK1 with the other R-rated super... Well, let's go with supers. And the character that I forgot. Collector. And honestly, I couldn't have come up with a better introduction for Collector if I tried. He is boring and forgettable. Shao Kahn at least has a commanding presence. The Collector just kind of exists to be an ally to Shao Kahn. He's greedy. He's greedy. I got virtually nothing to say. The closest I could do was put him in the most fancy garb that I could because of his obsession with luxury, but that seems like all there is to his character. I give him credit as being genuinely loyal to Shao Kahn, but purely because Shao Kahn let him steal from people. After that, there's just... I mean, it's an interesting design, I will say that. But the character is boring and forgettable. And with that, unless I forgot somebody else, not possible. That's my thought on the Mortal Kombat characters and most of my current designs for them. I don't have every design. I've been playing this a long time, but I just haven't gotten everything yet. And honestly, I really like this game. I love the fighting, I hated the gore, but the characters... I love the toy box approach with six-armed tax collector, bug woman, cowboy, Shaolin monk, cyborg, ninjas, all mashed up together, and I just love the insanity of that. And I really liked the guest characters. I admit, with these guys, I barely knew any of them. With MK9, the guests were Freddy, who mostly existed for me to practice fatalities on, and Kratos, who at the time was absolute scum and also existed for me to do fatalities on. I would love to see old Kratos show up in one of the later games. Still just as violent, but actually with, an actual character. Don't go after me, Kratos fanboys. Kratos had a character in the original, but it quickly got flanderized to be blood and vengeance, and the type of guy who would stub his toe, slaughter everybody on the street, smash the street, and then kill everybody else in town as painfully as possible for the slight inconvenience he suffered. In looking towards the future, I'm probably going to be learning to play a lot of Scorpion because I like Kuai Liang. And as for the guests, the one I'm most excited about would be Omni-Man. I saw Invincible, and J.K. Simmons is great. I hear J. Jonah Jameson coming out of his mouth, out of Omni-Man's mouth, and I love it. And I like that he was actually more of a flawed character that tried to just be as evil as possible because that was the only way to convince himself he wasn't starting to turn good. And I hope that hopefully both, either A, Invincible is a cameo that comes along with him, or B, this clears the way to add Invincible into the next Injustice game. What are your thoughts on the characters? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what your favorite guests were, or how you want to, or what you're looking forward to in Mortal Kombat 1. Let me know if you think that I'm a complete idiot who's glossing over good parts of the characters for my own biases. But for now, we are done with Mortal Kombat 11, and I will see you all in the new era of Mortal Kombat 1. Goodbye.